Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant. I'm Graham Giason Matthews. All December and January long, we're breaking down every installment in Royal Rumble history. Today, we're talking about Royal Rumble 1994, as seen only on the WWE Network. So, kicking off the show, Tatanka taking on Bam Bam Bigelow. Fine match. Didn't really care much for it. Tatanka, I believe, was still in the midst of his undefeated streak. I believe. I might be wrong on that, but picked up the win here. Really nothing else to it other than that. I'm pretty sure Bigelow picked up a win at Royal Rumble the year before, right around the time that he debuted, and he was kind of on the downswing by this point, even with Luna Vachon in his corner as his manager. Wasn't really doing anything all that special at that period in time. Tatanka wins. Nothing much more to this match other than that. Not the most exciting opener in Royal Rumble history, that much is for sure. But after that, we get a great tag team match for the WWF Tag Team titles. The Quebecers defending and successfully retaining their titles against the duo of Bret Hart and Owen Hart. Of course, this was all after the tension was teased in the final few months of 1993 when Owen Hart walked off on Bret Hart at Survivor Series. In that time, they made up, they reconciled. They said for the holidays they would put all their differences aside, and Bret said that he would never, ever, ever face his brother Owen, leading to this tag team title match on this show. The Quebecers retained the titles, as they mentioned, after Bret Hart's leg got injured. That was kind of the That was what got targeted here. That was the reason for their downfall and what led to the Quebecers retaining the titles, leading to Owen Hart turning officially on Bret Hart after the match, kicking off one of the most iconic feuds in WWE history, saying that, I forgot what the botch was. When Bret Hart was walking up the ramp, Owen Hart said something on the Titantron, which was a great promo, by the way, but he said, I kicked your left leg when it was actually the right leg, or something along those lines. I remember it was a funny line that I just remember someone bringing up that botch. But it was a great moment, and like I mentioned, kicked off their epic WrestleMania build for their match and their basically year-long feud. Owen Hart would attack Bret Hart the following year at the Royal Rumble, which I'll get to my 95 review cheap plug, but it would kick off one of the most storied and iconic feuds in the 90s for WWE, if not the most iconic feud, other than what happened in the Attitude Era, but you know what I mean. So after that, for the Intercontinental Championship, Razor Ramon successfully retaining his title against IRS. Decent match. IRS, the whole story behind this, I guess, was that IRS stole Razor Ramon's golden chains because he wanted to sell them because he's IRS. And Razor Ramon beat him, retained the title. Again, a nothing match. IRS is a great worker. Mike Rotunda, I believe his name is. I know it's Rotundo, but I forgot what his first name is. IRS, an underrated worker, but the story was pretty bland. The match was bland and didn't really have any interest in it other than that. So after that, for the WWF Championship, Yokozuna successfully retained the title against The Undertaker in a casket match. And one of the worst matches, probably the worst match in Royal Rumble history up to this point. Just awful. This is coming off of their casket match that I watched at Royal Rumble, Survivor Series 1994. I talked about it a couple months ago here in the channel, maybe just last month. And that match was terrible too. I can't believe they wasted so much time on one feud. I know Taker would take time off, and this was the start of him taking time off until the summer, leading to him missing his first and only one of two WrestleManias, WrestleMania 10. Come back, face the fake Undertaker at SummerSlam, rekindle his rivalry with Yokozuna in time for Survivor Series for another awful casket match. Again, totally terrible. A lot of interference from Yokozuna's boys, Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette and whoever. The match was terrible. They just don't have any good chemistry. Don't mind Yokozuna. I thought he had a decent reign as WWE Champion as a dominant foreign heel. But in these matches with Undertaker, he was anything but dominant. He was anything but intimidating. He would always seem to be scared by the Undertaker and never really show any. Always showing that he was always frightened by the Undertaker, and Undertaker was successfully, playing the mind games on the heel. And you would think it'd be the other way around. I know it's the Undertaker, but they made Yokozuna, they made him out to look very, very weak during their course of matches in 1994, leading to some of the worst matches I've ever seen from Undertaker, especially from Yokozuna, but definitely Undertaker too. So the match sucked. In the end, like I said, Yokozuna still the WWF champion. Put him in the casket afterwards. We get Undertaker doing this whole light show at the top of the stage and the Titantron saying that he will rise again. And like I said, it would lead to the Undertaker match at SummerSlam that same year. So we get to the main event, the 1994 Royal Rumble match. Honestly, really nothing special about it at all. A pretty paint-by-numbers Rumble. There weren't many moments that stick out in my mind that I thought were special other than Diesel kind of going on a rampage. And he would target Shawn Michaels at one point. I think Shawn Michaels and Diesel shook hands. So that would kind of kick off their partnership for the rest of 94 going to 95 and their feud at WrestleMania 11. But the Rumble itself, before the ending, which I'll get to in a second, wasn't really anything special. It wasn't bad. It was a decent Rumble, but not many stories being told other than Diesel going on a rampage, eliminating a bunch of people, being the only one in the ring at one point, and knocking off everyone who came in the ring. And he would just take them out one by one by one. Bob Backlund lasted all of like a minute or two after being the Iron Man in '93, so that was a bit weird. No consistency there. But like I said, a decent Rumble. We get to the end. The final four were one of the head shrinkers. I forgot who it was, and he was the first one to go. But him, Shawn Michaels, which was, very fitting, I guess is the word that I'm looking for, considering, the feud that him and Bret had in the years to come. But it would be Michaels, one half of the head shrinkers, Lex Luger, and Bret Hart. The head shrinker was thrown out. Shawn Michaels got thrown out, leaving Luger and Bret Hart. It wasn't long after that they tossed each other both over the top rope, and they weren't really in the ring long enough for that moment to feel special. I mean, like in the final showdown between the two. But they would tackle each other, they would topple over the top rope and touch the floor at the same time. Now, did they really touch at the same time? I guess we'll never really know. Like when Batista and Cena did it unintentionally, that was really at the same time. This one, maybe there might have been like a foot down before the other, but you would never know because they didn't get that camera angle. You just see both guys going over the top rope. You do not see their feet touch the floor. It's kind of implied, but that might have been intentional. So what they ended up doing was they ended up playing the music. They said Bret Hart's the winner. Crowd goes crazy. They say Lex Luger is the winner. Crowd goes crazy. And then the president, Jack Tunney, comes down to the ring and declares them both winners of the Royal Rumble. And later on, it's revealed that both men will get a title shot at WrestleMania. Now, the story behind this match, reportedly, according to the urban legend, so to speak, was that whoever got the bigger pop when they announced both guys as the winner of the Rumble is who they would go with and have win the championship of WrestleMania. Now, Lex Luger was coming off of that title loss to Yoke. I mean, he technically won the match that he won via count out at SummerSlam in '93, and they still wanted to push him, whereas Bret Hart was still getting more organically over. He was doing the whole thing with Owen Hart, but he was still over. They wanted to put the belt back on him. So it made sense. It made sense for, they wanted to do both guys in the main event of WrestleMania. They just didn't really know who. So it was one of the rare times they listened to the crowd to see who they wanted, who was more popular, who was more over between the two, and they would go with them as the winner of the title match at WrestleMania. Then Yokozuna ended up pulling double duty. Bret Hart pulled double duty. He lost to Owen in the opener, won the belt in the main event, and then Lex Luger lost to Yokozuna in the mid-match show, and match in the mid-show. But if this happened today, of course, it would turn into a triple threat and not have the champion pull double duty. But still, a decent Rumble with an unprecedented finish and kind of unique in that way. So like I said, they were listening to the fans to see what they wanted, who they wanted to win the Rumble, who was more over, so they can put the title on that person at WrestleMania. So kind of, like I said, unique in that way. But on the whole, a fine Rumble. It's hard to recommend it just because the awful, awful, awful Undertaker match, everything else in the show is all right. I thought the Owen Hart, Bret Hart storytelling in their tag team match, the match itself was really good, but the storytelling, what happened afterwards was awesome. So if there's any one match from the show I would recommend, it's that one. Everything else was, like I said, paint by numbers. The Rumble wasn't really anything special. The title match was awful. Razor and IRS was mediocre, and the opener was mediocre. So by and large, I would not recommend that you watch this show because there's a lot of just filler. But if you do want to watch the key moments, fast forward to the closing moments of the Royal Rumble and the controversy that ensues as a result, as well as the tag team match for the tag team titles, the Quebecers and the Hart brothers, which leads to, like I said earlier, one of the most storied feuds in WWE history. So that is my review of WrestleMania 1994 Royal Rumble. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'll be back in my next video to review the Royal Rumble 1995. But in the meantime and in between time, you guys can catch me on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Also, right here on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. Have a great one, guys, and I'll catch you guys down the road for my review of the Royal Rumble 1995.